are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are talking about weird spaces in the paranormal. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, and there are many ways to support the show. You can share the shows with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and find all kinds of shirts with designs and some other items with designs made by friends of the show. And you can also make donations through PayPal as well. And go from there. Also, please follow friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays with me whenever she's able to make it, and we'll be talking with her soon. Also, Ricky of the Anything is Possible podcast, who does a paranormal-themed show on Sundays that I co-host. And then Michael Strange, host of Trouble Minds Radio, which I also co-host frequently, and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, online, 24/7 for free. So I think that takes care of all the usual introduction stuff there. Thank you all for listening in, and this is actually episode 1005. So it's really amazing to be at that point now where the episode numbers are 4 digits long, not 3. And I remember when I first started out, it was amazing when I got to 2 digits. So, but anyway, this is we've had this topic planned for a little while now, but had some just life in general happening, and then just big episode 1000 again last week. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but I'm looking forward to this one because it's something we hear about a lot. And I think I have experiences with that, and I don't want to go too much into my own experiences just because we're already doing a series on that, but I may still bring up a couple as we're going through here. But as I said here, I'm not doing the show alone. I do prefer to do the topic-based shows with Jen, or at least with someone that I know that isn't all these topics. But as always, Jen, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's really good to be here. I mean, it is true. We've been talking about this topic sort of off and on about these liminal spaces for a while, and haven't quite got around to it. I think we've covered it, sort of in different ways in the past, but I'm glad we're kind of going to focus on it tonight and see what we come up with or what kind of experiences you found to reference to, and then see if there's anything we can think of along the way that sort of ties into it or try to make some kind of sense of it, as we usually try to do. And I'm looking forward to it, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Always glad to. And yeah, I found a couple of articles. I put them in the chat, and also I will put them in the episode description. Just because this is something that it's not. I don't think it's super well known. The first time I ever heard of liminal spaces was on Where Did the Road Go? And over there they talk about it, not just the physical, but the sort of, I guess, metaphysical as far as meanings and all those other things go. But in particular here, this, in my mind, is, at least what we're going to talk about here, at least to start with, is these physical spaces. And I guess I go over a list of these kinds of spaces here. And that would be basically any area where people do not stay in for very long at a time. So hallways, stairways, closets, basements, attics. Now, of course, some people do have basements where they're in there a lot. And attics, I guess, some people do have. If it's a large enough group of people, they'll have their room that's in the attic. But even then, it's not common everywhere. But also just, but yeah, stairways, hallways. I guess doorways that aren't used all the time. Closets, that's another one. All these places, and all these places seem to be very common locations for paranormal activity. So I have this. I'll refer to this one article here first. Let's see if I have the right one. This one is from. It's a website called ghostlyactivities.com, and the title of the article is "Liminal Spaces, Where Spookiness Manifests." And they have a few characteristics of what they say liminal spaces are. And so I'll go over the. Let's see here. There's a paragraph here, and I'll go over the. They have full bullet points as well, a few bullet points as well. So they say a liminal space is a transitional zone, both physically and emotionally. These are spaces or moments where the normal rules, if I could talk, of time, place, and identity feel suspended. Often you get a strange mix of nostalgia, unease, and attachment. You feel out of sorts, discombobulated. That's quite the. I'm surprised I was able to say that word. And this makes the place a fertile ground for spooky stories. And it has key characteristics of liminal spaces. And it says here, transitional or in between by nature. And examples they give are hallways, airports, I guess, which would include like a waiting room. They also say waiting rooms. Empty or sparsely populated, amplifying an eerie, otherworldly feel. That also, I think that includes places like theaters and concert venues, stadiums, like sports stadiums as well. There's a lot of areas that really can fall into this whole topic. And then these areas blend familiarity with isolation, both comforting and unsettling. So, so there's a lot there, but I've heard of so many accounts too of stadiums and theaters and concert venues where when the place is not active and there's only one or two people in the building, that's when you hear a lot about paranormal activity happening in the place. I'm sure you've probably heard about that as well, Jen, and because you've done a lot of reading on all these things too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whether it's attics, I've always heard like in dream symbology that if you go up into an attic, it's sort of like it's easier to go up the stairs into the attic than it is to go down, as if like the basement is more of like a subconscious level, like it's going into like a deeper emotional realm versus like there's a bit more optimism about climbing up a ladder as well as apprehension. But in a lot of dreams, people have, less issue going up and upstairs and going downstairs, and that there's some kind of symbolism there, at least in like dreamscape. And I wonder what role that plays, because I've noticed like in a lot of dream interpretation and things like that, they talk about, a hallway being dreams take place a lot of times in these liminal spaces and especially like you were saying, just not in a dream state, but that people's paranormal experiences typically are involving, closets and everything under the bed, places that you don't really go except for every now and then. And then, so, I mean, a lot of my experiences too have been and yours as well, in rooms that aren't used often or are at least for yourself and myself as well. But as if they sort of carry on a sort of energy of their own for sure.
Yeah, and that's all in the chat there says all the energy spent at theaters and concerts, definitely, and all the energy preparing for those events, especially with theaters, where if it's an actual play, like a theater for live performances with actors and everything. They, I know they often practice there at least a few times before they do the actual play, and then when they do the play in theaters, often there's not just one performance of the play at one time. I think it's usually like a weekend, at least a couple of nights in the weekend, that a play is performed. And then I guess for larger ones, I imagine it's probably a lot more than that too. So that's a lot of energy both before and then during and then after the event that is being held there. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
wonder
so
if if the players, like the actors, if
mhm.
spirits are somehow drawn to that energy of them imagining these different roles, or if it's entertainment for themselves as well, or if, you know, the spirits can kind of sense that individuals are sort of accessing a different part of their mind, or if the audience or the like the spiritual audience, I guess, as far as like the haunting would go, if they were previous actresses and actors that were working at that theater that may frequent there. Or, I don't know, but it is interesting about theaters, and I don't know if it's to do with like that just the state of mind that people go into when they're going in to be entertained like that, or if it's something to do, because it's an entirely strange thing to do, really. The theaters, I don't know that we've covered theaters, but we may sometime. But no, I don't want to drift off topic. So I think that it makes sense that these spaces people frequent but don't stay very long, maybe a couple hours. And in the instances of closets and things like that throughout their house, they visit them every day almost, or, at least to some extent, but don't live in those spaces per se. And it's like something else does for when they're not, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to do a theaters and concert halls, concert venues and sports stadiums thing. I think it's connected to all this, but it's a
Yeah.
whole other level of, I don't know, of a topic, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do that sometime.
We'll
We'll
see.
add that to the list. But um, also, Matt's on in the chat says there that Jen is fire, which I always agree. But yeah, the closets. It's funny too. I still have every once in a while, like I don't know, once every couple of few weeks, I will have my closet across from my kitchen doorway. I'll just find it open. I think I've said this before, and it still happens here and there. Um, and I'll find it open after just having walked by like less than a day, less than hours, even a few hours after having walked by there before. And uh, I never hear it open, which is weird because it's a metal sliding, folding in on itself closet door. So it makes noise when you move it usually. And I'll just find it open sometimes. And sometimes it's like halfway open, other times it's just a little bit. And I can see that when it's just a little bit, I can maybe believe that that was Logan, my cat, opening it. But usually if she does mess with it, I can hear that too. So it's a weird thing. And I don't get any bad feelings from it. It's just something that happens here and there in
Right.
this apartment.
Yeah. When I was a kid and I, would be in my bedroom at night sometimes, I remember it started in this particular house, and I would lay in bed and like my bed was lined up with the doorway. And so I'd be looking at the door. So some kids like to sleep with their door closed. I liked mine open, and so I could see the light in the hallway while I went to sleep.
Right.
And I'd be laying there and like looking out into the hallway, just waiting to fall asleep. And I swear, like it looked like the door would be like trying, like it would not immediately, it'd be like 30 minutes or something. I'm not sure, how kids tell time. I don't know. But I'd
Hmm.
just lay there and watch it slowly look like it was moving like 5 or 6 inches, away from where it was, or a little bit more so. And it bothered me so much that like after several nights of that, after we moved into this house, at this like giant rock and like put it against the door to make sure. I never had that problem again. But like, I don't know if it was actually happening or if like I thought it was happening and the rock like made me feel more comfortable, so it worked or what. But or like in my mind as a kid, I was like, the ghost can't move that giant rock. So, and I could,
Right.
it was like that. So I don't know. But doorways again, really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there's sometimes I'll find one of my bathroom or my storage room, it's supposed to be like a bedroom, but I use it for storage. I'll find one of those doors open when I was pretty sure I had closed it, and again, I never hear anything. So I don't know. I can sometimes I feel like, well, I probably forgot to close it, but other times in my mind I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure I closed that. But okay, and that's not a big deal, but it's just funny.
Oh
Logan
no,
isn't allowed
fair.
in
Like
either of those spaces because she made messes in there in those
oh
rooms.
no.
So
Yeah,
it's just,
there was another
yeah,
house, a more recent house I lived in, and that room I told you that I didn't like to sleep in. I'd slept in the living room, kind of like you told me that you like to do sometimes too. And I didn't use that room very often, but sometimes I would. And like I was super aware of the closet. Like it was like a big old creepy house, you know.
right.
And so I was like super uber aware of the closet in that room because it was like really tall ceilings and it just stood out to me. And I always wanted to make sure it was closed. So there were a couple occasions where like I came in, like I'd hear the dog barking or something like that, and I'd go in there. And this only happened on one occasion actually. And like the closet door was open, and I was like, why is that open? You know,
Right.
and like closed it. But it was so weird because I was like, how did it open? Like, what opened it? And it was one of those, it's a normal latch door, it shouldn't have been able to be, I don't know. So I guess maybe people say stuff like maybe it's like air suction or something, but I just don't think so because it didn't usually do that, you know?
Especially with latches, like normally I don't I'm so I've found a couple of stories of that before. Shared on the show, at least one I can think of, where someone heard the latch on their door, like their bedroom door or closet door or whatever, just a door near them and inside their house. They heard it open and they looked and the door was open. And to me, when it's a latch, like I always thought that'd be hard for just air to move.
Yeah. You have to like click it over, the
Yeah,
doorknob completely over out of yeah. And it was like an old one. So like, like some doors kind of stick anyway. So like,
yes,
so it was kind of like that. Like it was ill-fitting sort of. So I don't know. Yeah, I thought it didn't just blow open or anything. It was in a heavy door, but
right.
it was a small closet, but it was just popped open like a good foot, like open door. And the dog was barking too, so I thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, when the animals react to things, that's when you know it's not just your own mind playing any kind of tricks on you or misremembering or yeah, mistaking things because they're picking up on something as well. So, but yeah, I have I've shared this before when I did that show talking about my grandparents' house. The first place that I saw anything there was on the landing of the steps. With my cousin, we saw the older lady there that was on the steps, and she was just smiling and looking down at us. And we saw her there a few times, and so there was that. That was like the first sort of staircase experience I had. Of course, not long after that, as I've also shared before, the the white human-sized light that my cousin and I saw, it came down from the second floor to the ground floor in my cousin's house. And then there was in the house that my dad and my former stepmom used to live in, which will probably be part of another show, one of these my revisiting my experiences shows. But whenever I was over at that house, most of the time I would find myself wanting to look at the stairwell at the middle of, like, in between the ground floor and the second floor. And I would never see anything there. But I'm guessing I was picking up on some kind of energy or some kind of presence that would be there. And it wasn't all the time when I was there, but it was like at least once or twice every time I was there, that I'd stay there, like every day. I would get the sense of someone being there, like, I don't know, watching from that point on the stairs. And that's also where I heard, there were a few times in that house I heard what sounded like two girls, like kids, or at the oldest they'd be teenagers, but two girls whispering and talking and laughing. And it wasn't like a horror movie evil kind of laughing or talking, but just like they were there. And the first time I heard that, I heard it from that point in the stairwell, and of course looked up and didn't see anything. So I wonder if it's, I don't know, if that small of a difference in elevation can make a difference in energy, from like the ground floor, like the ground level, to, I don't know, being disconnected from the organic part of the planet, the surface, the ground itself, can cause things to happen or be, I don't know, good places for energy to stay or to get to. I don't know. It's just really weird that would happen. On that, that's a handful of experiences I had with stairwells,
Yeah.
and I've heard of, so many others as well.
No, same thing. Like my childhood home, I grew up at my grandpa's house mostly when I was little. Like 5 to 10, like a little kid. And this house was a really old house. I mean, a lot of houses are. It wasn't a new build, we'll put it that way. And I remember like the hallway. So all of this is really just some kind of strong symbolism. And I think I base a lot of symbolism I have now based off of that house, even. Because, like, me and my brother, we slept down in the basement. It was like a finished basement. But it was like the stairwell that went into the basement was carpeted. And I was always just really anxious going down those stairs into the basement. But once I got there, I was fine. I just had to get over the basement. Get over the stairway, of going down the stairs. And there'd be like a bit of, it wasn't so much anxiety about the stairs, but there was also like this little crawl space door off the stairs that would go into the crawl space of the house. And I was always afraid to pass by that little door. So that was one thing. And then for the attic, like when you came off the kitchen, there was like a hallway and the phone was at one end, like right off the kitchen. And then off the hallway there was like a bedroom door, a bathroom door, and another bedroom door on like the left. And on the right, there was like a door that went into a dining room and then into the living room. So to get to any room in the house, you had to go down this long hallway. And it had like, he used gas lighting still. So like it was like gaslit lights. So it's like this kind of low light. And then he had like family photos from like 1910s or something. So it was like spooky. It was carpeted. It was a normal thing, but it was just kind of spooky. And then I would stand like off the kitchen and like look down that hallway. And at the very end of that hallway was a door that went up to the attic. And they stored stuff up there. And like when my mother grew up in that house too, and her sisters, and they used to go up there and kind of play around and everything. And a lot of their stuff from when they were kids was up there. But I would always just like have to kind of run down that hallway to get to the living room. You just had this kind of feeling as if like, I don't know, same thing, like hurry through that space to get to where you're trying to go. But there was a sense of unease, and I don't know what caused it, but it was just so weird. And then the stairs going up to the attic, It was literally like going into a whole different house. Like it was kind of unfinished and like there was all this old stuff from like a couple of generations up there. So it was definitely like this whole different energy, to even go up there. But and when me and my brother used to sleep in the living room sometimes, like for fun, like not sleeping in the bedroom, but sleeping in the living room and like have the
Right.
TV on. And we would hear noises up there. And like my brother, who's older than me, he would say like, "Oh, it's just the house settling or whatever." But it was just you could hear like it probably was, but it just sounded. It was I don't know. It was so weird. And then when my grandpa was getting much older, and he got Alzheimer's, and towards the time when when they recognized he had Alzheimer's, as a little kid, I remember him talking about he thought there was something up in the attic, which just really
Hmm.
freaked me out. But because he would play this music, like when he was in the mornings, he would put music on this certain type of weird, not like weird music, but like old. I don't know how to explain it. Like it was like I don't know, like it was just like music he played on the radio, like AM. It was like AM music radio or something.
Right.
He would play that because he thought that somehow that helped with and maybe it did, I don't know, but he became aware at least of like the same things that the kids were afraid of with the attic, which was
Oh,
really weird.
wow.
But he was also going through the beginning stages of like severe Alzheimer's. But I don't know. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, and hearing footsteps on staircases, and in basements and in attics, it's really common as far as reports of paranormal activity go, as well. And just footsteps on stairs, but then no one shows up either at the bottom or the top. All those kinds of things. Um, and yeah, and crawl spaces are a whole other thing. I mean, it's like it's like a smaller version of a closet. And there was a couple. It's really weird because my grandparents' house, the one where my cousin and I saw the former owner, the house always felt good, always felt fine. But there were a couple of in the upstairs rooms. Each one had one of these crawl spaces, and whenever I looked at those doors to those crawl spaces, I got a weird feeling from them, like there was someone
No,
else in
same
there.
thing. Same
And
thing.
yeah, and it was so different from the rest of the house. And it didn't make sense to me, even as like a kid growing up. Like, why does the energy in this house, almost like 90% of this house feels so good? And yet when I look at this crawl space, small half doorway in the wall of the upstairs rooms, why do I get such a different feeling from that? I don't know because I never really went in there.
Me
Um,
either, but same thing. Like the whole
yeah,
house felt fine once you got through. Like I didn't mind going into the basement. It was getting down
right,
the stairs past that crawl space. And
yeah,
then the hallway, like the living room didn't feel creepy. The bedrooms didn't feel creepy. The bathroom didn't feel creepy. It was the hallway that led to all those rooms that felt weird, you know. And then the attic at the end of it too, which felt really weird. It was a full-size door, and you
right.
open it, and then you're just looking at stairs that go up to the attic. So I think I just knew that and thought something was, I don't know what I thought. But yeah, same thing. The whole house felt fine. Just a hallway, the attic, and the stairwell to the basement.
Yeah, and my other grandparents, my maternal grandparents had a house for many years, and that house there was never anything that happened there, but at night it always felt like the house got crowded, similar with other places I've been to. Like it just filled up with people. But also in that house, uh, and this is something I will never do. If I ever get to have my own house built, I will never set things up this way, where the stairway that went up to the second floor, um, it once you got to the top of it, directly in front of it was a closet door. and then there was a doorway on either side, to the left or right. The left went into my grandparents' bedroom, and the right went into the hallway where the other bedroom and bathroom were at. But right in front, as like you could see the closet door uh, from
That's so
while you were
weird.
standing on the ground floor, looking up the stairs. And this was years before I knew about anything. I had done any looking into any of these things, and I just never liked that closet door, like
No.
that whole space. I never liked it. Like whenever I'd stay overnight there, I'd sleep in the extra bedroom, and I would always get up those stairs as fast as I could and get
Hmm.
past that closet door. It didn't help that it had like a little. There was one corner of it that was like had a it didn't have a right angle. It had like a little a diagonal side to the top of it on one side.
Yeah.
So
Like
it
they
had a
converted
weird shape.
the rooms upstairs.
Yeah.
There was a house I lived in that had a
Hmm.
similar layout. Like the stair, you came through the front door, and there were stairs, probably like 4 feet from the front door. And the
Mm.
stairs went straight up, like, and then there was a closet storage, like a closet for storage. And on either side were 2 rooms, and they had dormer windows, which is like where the windows, like if you go into that room, there's like a little alcove. I don't know how to describe it. That like
Right.
has the window, but you have like a little small, and these were like low ceilinged, like they'd converted the attic or something, but it looked like it was made that way. But kind of like
Right.
that. And they had built the rooms, they were angled ceilings because it was like the roof overhead. It wasn't like wasn't like full size normal rooms. It got like narrower towards the end in the upstairs rooms. So
Right.
like it's kind of what like the house that I lived in was weird. And then there was not a crawl space. It was a closet under the stairs too. Like those stairs, if you went through the living room and the kitchen and into the hallway, it had like one bathroom. And
Mm.
there was like a closet door there across from the bathroom that had like shelves in it, and that was underneath the stairs. So it was like all kinds of weird little nooks and cranny. But those older homes had a lot of that because I think they just made use of all the space,
Right.
not
Yeah.
thinking about how kids were interpreting that as being super weird. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's strange.
It is funny too how I wonder if it has to do with the places that we grew up in versus or spend more time in versus the places we don't. Where if we grew up in places that have regular doorways and like not no diagonals to any of the doorways or the ceilings or whatever, but then we go to some place that does have those things. I wonder if that's part of it as well. Just the difference in the appearance of things is just off enough to make it seem weird.
I kind of
Not
think
that I'm
that
discounting the paranormal activity, but everything can work together, I think, to make
it
for weird
could.
experiences.
Yeah, because if you felt kind of like as a kid, if it's a me, 'cause it was nothing made me think that. Like in those
Right.
houses, nothing made me think anything. Nothing even weird happened for a long time. It was just they felt off before something weird happened when I was a kid. And then strange things, it was almost like it was confirmed, you know, the experience there that there was something weird about those spaces. And then in future homes, like it's true that some of the more modern builds, but obviously it's got nothing to do with necessarily a haunted space. There's something about those spaces, which kind of draws back to the whole show topic that like a liminal space that's sort of, not typical. But if it's typical for when you're a kid, I don't know how it still carries the same weird energy, you know? Like in our cases,
Yeah.
like you moved into a fairly well kind of modern apartment, and I lived in a house that was not modern, but like probably the 60s or 70s or something. And like certain rooms kind of felt like they were private to something else. So they became liminal because we didn't spend much time in those rooms.
Right.
Like you didn't spend much time in that room, and I didn't spend much time in that room that I'm talking about.
Yep.
And stuff tended to happen there because it seemed like they were unoccupied.
And I do wonder if,
But occupied.
yeah, and I wonder which comes first, the weird feeling, or is there something already there, or is it a cycle? I do think that, you know, if there are sort of non-physical beings out there that still exist somehow, that are just energy and consciousness, and they want a place to stay for a while, it makes sense that they would try to find rooms that aren't being used, uh, to stay in for whatever reasons they're while they're traveling. I don't know, or what they want to stay in an area for a while again for whatever reasons. I don't know, but we find this again and again. You know, it is common. You hear about how there are presences in these spaces that they're not always there to begin with, but sometimes they are, but other times they're not, and then they show up and occupy these spaces. Because I do think these different beings travel around for whatever reason and come and go from spaces, and they look for these places that are not being used. And sometimes I do think there are beings out there that do like interaction, and they'll find these spaces just hoping to interact. But I don't think that's the case with every situation, because again, just based on experiences and people have had and I've had, I don't think there's always a desire for interaction. Again, the experience I had with that room, with that presence that was in that closet, the feeling I always got was, leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. I don't mean you any harm. I just need a place to stay. And it did that. Whoever it was, they did that for a while. But then eventually they left. And I
Right.
still don't know why, when they got there, or why they were there, or why they left.
Well, okay, so that house I was talking about that had the room it was supposed to be a bedroom, but I wouldn't sleep in it. I began to sleep in the living room, and then I found that there was a room off the kitchen. It was a 3-bedroom house and pretty small rooms, but I began to sleep off the kitchen in that room, and it was like the smallest room, and it actually felt better. It just seemed like it had a better energy to it. Like, I guess best way to put it. But my cat just jumped on the table. One second. But
No
so
problem.
that room that I didn't usually sleep in, that I had the weirdest feeling from, I occasionally, like, I was sleeping in the living room. I was sleeping in that back room, but I told you like how the dog was barking. And this was like probably several months apart, the situation. And I went in there to sleep, and this was like months after that happened, and nothing had happened. So I was like, I'm gonna sleep in this room because it was a bigger room, for the house, and it looked like it was just a nice bedroom, and I wanted to kind of try to sleep in it, and I did, and I was laying there sleeping while trying to go to sleep, and I heard like the closet door, and I've told you this story, and like I could just barely see light in the room coming from because I had my door open, so the living room light I didn't have a living room light on, it was like a lamp on or something. But I kind of like I didn't get up or anything. I just opened my eyes and was looking over at the closet. And the closet door, it looked like it opened up, and then I could see this like person for like, it probably lasted like, I don't know, like 10 seconds or something, but long enough for me to see that it looked like an old man. I could see like the light shining on his head.
Right.
He had a bald head, and like the hair went around the sides of his head. I could see that, like the white of his hair, and I could see the light glint off of his glasses, and it looked like that. And I just like was freaked out really bad, and I didn't move, and I just like I think I did just get up. It's hard to remember it now because I was in between sleep, like trying to go to
Yeah.
sleep, but I was not asleep, and like I saw it clear as day. And it looked like a real person there. But like the light switch, like I flipped the light switch on and there was like nobody there, you know? But
Right.
it looked like the closet itself was only like 3 feet deep. It was like it wasn't a big closet. Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big closet. But There was no way. And like, I've never seen anything like that. And it looked like just this, it didn't even look like a ghost. It looked like a real person. Like, I could see like the light. He had glasses on. And I told that story before, but that's one of the ones where like seeing something. And I don't know what or why. Sorry, like I don't know why it would have been in that closet, like why the spirit would have been in there. But I think since I usually didn't use that room, it was almost like, oh, sorry, didn't know you were in here type of thing.
Right.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that does happen more than people realize, and people become startled or frightened by these experiences, which is understandable. But as I always say in these shows, I think there's plenty of cases where it seems like whoever else is there is just as startled or frightened, in some cases, of us, of people that are here physically,
yeah, he
as
didn't
we
come
are of
out.
them.
He didn't come out of there.
Right.
He just like had
Yeah.
popped I could just see like that he'd opened the door and like popped his head out almost. Like he just was there for a few seconds. And I like sat up and flipped the light switch on, and then there was like nothing, you know?
Right.
So it was just weird like that.
I do wonder too with closets and places like that. I mean, I wonder how often, because you hear about this, I've heard about this before with closets being a possible portal in some way for beings to come and
That's what
go.
I think too. I think that for sure.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's because they don't want to use, let's say, like the doors that everyone else uses to come and go from a building, or if there's something about, or if it's something about that tight of a space that maybe, I don't know, can make for like a natural amplifier of energy in some way.
I don't know. Oh my
Um,
God. Matt Sal said in the chat that his closet door has mirrors on it.
oh boy. Yeah, those are my, funny enough, the house that my cousin used to live in, their bedrooms had those kind of closet doors, and they were the full, like it was a full mirrored surface from floor to top. And yeah, I never liked those either, um, in that house. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have those. But yeah, and I mean, mirrors is another aspect of all these things too. Um, I don't think we've done a show on that. I know I did a show with Michael Strange
No, we
on that,
haven't. Should
but
do that.
so
That'd be good.
yeah, because
That
that's a whole
closet
other
too didn't
topic.
have a light in it. It's like
Mm,
when I'd stay at like my grandma's house. Like I was grown up when this incident with the closet I'm talking about. But like when I was still younger, living at home, I'd go to like my grandma's house, or like even in my own house. When I was like a teenager, if there was a light in the closet, if I turned that on, I just felt 100% better, like at least 80% better. I don't know
that's
what it was.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Does that
even if
light
yeah,
ruin the portal in a way? Which doesn't make complete sense because if it's a different kind of energy, then why would? But so often light does seem to. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it drives energies or entities away, or if it just makes
I
them
don't know.
invisible. I'm not sure how that
Probably
works.
something like that. Because I mean, it was probably just mostly like a comfort thing, like,
True.
sleeping with a flashlight or something when you're a kid. I have no idea. Because I used to like to sleep like with it completely dark for the most part. You
Right.
know, like I preferred it to be really dark, and, you know, actually, even if there was like a light from like like some type of device or something like that, like, even a small like power light on a television, I would like see that, like, and I would just
Yeah.
stare at it, till I fell
Yep.
asleep. Yeah. So I don't know about that with the light part. I think it just made me feel better that I could see in there and be like, oh, there's nothing there. Now, if something had popped up in spite of the light, that would have been a different thing too. Because people see things in full light. I've seen things
Oh
in full
yes.
light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, my cousin and I saw what we saw most of the times in full light, either because the light was on or because it was daytime. It is funny how there's this idea that, or there's this trope that, all things paranormal have to happen at night and in the dark. And obviously, anyone that's looked into these
Obviously
things
not.
at all,
Yeah,
yeah,
not at all.
yeah. But let me just read a little bit here from this other article here, and because it kind of goes over some of the same things. But this other article is from connectparanormal.net. I think I've used a couple articles from them before for other shows, and they seem to be pretty decent as far as the information they have. Um, so ghosts and liminal spaces, key points. It says liminal spaces, like hallways, lack inherent meaning and exist only for passage, creating an unsettling emptiness. Our brains feel. Okay. My bottle bag just shifted. Probably Logan. Or maybe not. I have no idea. Anyway, for passage, creating an unsettling emptiness, our brains feel compelled to fill. Also, it says our minds project ghosts onto these empty spaces to explain the eerie feelings and provide context where none exists. I do think I can kind of get what they mean there, where we're imagining some things. Obviously, that's not every case. It says ancient folklore identified thresholds and boundaries as spirit-dwelling places due to their transitional nature and lack of human presence. And then it goes into, let's see here, a few more points here. Poor lighting, shadows, infrasound, and pareidolia create conditions that cause people to misperceive natural phenomena as supernatural. Do you think that can happen, but also it doesn't explain everything. Reflective surfaces, there we go, acoustic distortions, and dramatic lighting in liminal spaces contribute to their reputation as haunted locations. Ghost stories in liminal spaces reveal our psychological need to create meaning in environments that offer none. Um, Again, valid points, but also I do think these things can feed into each other. And there may be reasons that we have these ideas because things happen, or we get feelings. And I think there's such a big push to like write off people's feelings about all these things too, that I
Yeah.
think is a mistake.
Yeah, there's a couple of gaps there. Like for example, I mean, it makes sense. I can see what they're saying there. But
Right.
like sometimes, like in the instance I had, windows, I guess I don't know if it counts really. As far it's more of a portal thing, I think. But
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's our show. We can make what we want to make of it.
it's
Go ahead.
seeing like one of the very first things I ever saw. It was the first thing. Well, like the second thing I ever saw, like outside the window type of thing, of my
Mhm.
bedroom at this one house. And like I would be like in my room, going to sleep, and the very first time it happened, I looked over at the window and like saw something in the window, like standing there in the window. And it looked not like a person, in my little mind, like I didn't think so at the time. But I didn't expect to see anything there. I didn't expect to fill the space with anything. It just was there. The same thing with the closet door opening. Now, I may have already been nervous about sleeping in there, so that's true. But
Mhm.
it's weird that my mind would have been like, put so much detail on it. It's almost like
Yeah.
you're in like a dream state, but you're not. You're not asleep. And it's not paralysis either. Like you get up and you do things. Like you get up and move away from the environment, or you like turn a light on. So it's like you're consciously watching it happen. But then, you know, I get it that like certain environments kind of influence a spooky atmosphere, but I wasn't really spooked out. Like the hallway I'm talking about, my grandpa's house,
Right.
it like just had like this weird energy to it. And like I didn't want it to have a weird energy to it. It just did. But I guess trying to fill it, but it wasn't like it was more about going past the attic door, the same as with the staircase to the basement, going past the crawl space door. And like I said
Right.
before, with like the dream symbology stuff, why is it that like the unconscious mind sees these symbolisms in the dream state, accept that it's a type of symbolism for the waking state too, and the effect it has on the dreamer to be going upstairs versus downstairs as some type of symbolism, some type of symbolism to itself. Like that's interpreted in both worlds almost, like in the dream state and the waking state, as being some type of subconscious symbol. So I think there's something weird about that, like how waking state symbols translate into sleep state symbols too. And in paranormal experiences, that line is blurred. Almost like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I also do wonder, with that energy and also just with air movement and I mean, whatever might be in the air and energies that might be in the air, light, even if it's different kinds of light. And when it's in different spaces, I mean, even with air movement, I know that I've had experience where I can feel, even without being able to see, like if I'm wearing a blindfold or whatever, I know when I'm in a hallway versus when I'm in a wide open room. There's
Oh,
just,
acoustics. Maybe it's
yeah,
acoustics.
it could be
Yeah.
sound, it could be air movement, all these things together, and it could help. I think it could help maybe also, and both sides of this whole thing as usual. It could help make things feel weird when maybe they're not, but also, again, we don't know how these these consciousness that exist as energy fields, if that's how they exist, how they take in or gather energy, or how they move through spaces when they're
Maybe
just
they
made of
prefer
energy.
that environment. Like maybe that's
Right,
a conducive environment.
right. I'm wondering about that as well because it's just it's so common. I didn't think to actually look up stories on this, but I mean, I'm sure if you go through all the shows I've done where I share experiences that I find online, you'll find plenty of hallway and stairway and all those in closet examples just in the
Yeah.
shows I've done.
Well, it's
And
very common.
yeah, I was just thinking too. In the show we did a little while back where I talked about my cousin's house, but then also the out of body experiences I had where I went there. Um, Most of them, I started off in the basement of that house.
Oh my gosh.
There,
I don't know
there
how
was
we just
only like,
missed out, but that's a huge point. Yeah.
yeah, that's, I just realized it just now. Like, there was one where I was on the top floor, and there was one where I was on the ground floor, but like the other ones, the other two or three that I had in that basement or in the house, they all started off with being in the basement, and just want really more than that. I think probably more than that because there's some that are a lot more vague in my memory, but they felt like out of body experiences. But yeah, I wonder if there's something to that again, based on that symbolism, on that energy, on that all those things, where I started off at the very bottom of the location.
Yeah. That's actually really weird. I don't know if it has to do with being like, like you were mentioning earlier about being, you know, on like kind of in the ground versus like
Hmm.
off the ground. I don't know, but that is really weird, actually, specifically, with your experiences occurring in the basement. And then, that there's a sort of a mimic effect with like addicts, or there's some kind of deviation there in like the placement of the person. But I don't know, the impact of all these different physical environment effects does
Hmm.
seem to have some kind of effect. And it could just be that it puts the mind in a certain state, or it could be that that is preferred, like you were saying, like, well, I think that's like that there's a preferred state that they appear in, or that the
Right.
mind is sort of ripe to see that in these certain environments or something. I don't know. It's really odd.
Yeah. And if you
Interesting.
think about attics and basements, I mean, they're so often they have either no windows or they'll have very few or very uh, small windows in them as well. Now I think about it,
Hmm.
some basements will have those windows that are up near the ceiling.
That's what mine
Um,
had when I was a kid. Yeah.
yeah, that's what
And then
my cousin's house had.
the attic had like a small window too. Yeah.
Right. So these sort of sparse window natural light sources as well in them. And I mean, I know some places, some basements and some attics don't have windows at all. So I wonder what kind of, and again, that is, you have a space where there's one way in and out of the space, usually, or
Yeah.
often, and whether it's up or down, it's still only one way in or out of that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but I remember there was another house where I rented the downstairs and it was an apartment basically that was like like where they have the house is kind of built into a hill and that's the basement, but it's basically like another part of the house. And the
Right.
bedroom had no windows because it
Ah,
was because it was underground.
right.
And I had an experience there, and like I was sleeping, and it was like I woke up and I had like a low light in the room, like a very low light, like just a small. I don't even know what the source of light was, but it's a different story altogether. But like look like a child, but like a real child, you know, like and not in a scary way, like. And it said
Right.
something. It said, "What's that noise?" And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
"What noise?" And it made like a noise like snoring. And I don't know if I had been snoring or something, but like the child acted like it was startled by that sound. I kid you not.
Right.
And I was like, it's nothing, like, because I was like, I had been asleep in that case. Like
Right.
I got woke up by it. But that room had no windows. And like I wasn't even completely, like, I was asleep and it woke me up.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I don't know.
The presence of or the lack of windows is probably a factor in a lot of this too. I mean, it seems to be based on what we've been talking about here. And again, that's fascinating because then that's opens up that whole question of reflections of glass and what glass does to light and energy. I mean, there's so many accounts. I think we'll have to do a show on reflections, not just mirrors, but
Yes, that's a good idea.
windows as
Yeah.
well, because there are so many accounts of that as well. And we can go for a little bit longer here, not too much longer, but because I want to point out here, one of the stories that sticks out in my mind whenever I think about reflections and glass and all that I found and shared on one of these shows is there was this person that made a post online, and I found the post, and they were saying that when they were a kid, at one point they had this empty fish tank in their room, and they woke up one night and they could see an older woman standing in their doorway, but they were looking at the doorway. They could see the doorway through the sides of this fish tank.
Oh,
And
that's
of course, they
interesting.
saw this person, this woman, and they sat up in bed so that they weren't looking through the fish tank anymore, and they couldn't see this person anymore. And they lay back down again, and then they saw her, but then she walked away,
Yep.
or she was gone. So there you have them looking through two pieces of glass. So it really is fascinating. I think we'll have to do that. I know we have one other topic, and then of course next time we'll get back to my experiences. I
That
like
sounds good.
alternating, the between the experiences and then the topics. So, but yeah,
Okay.
well, this is fun, and thank you for being here as always, Jen.
Thank you so much. I had a great time and have a good night. And thank you for having me.
You as well. Thank you, and yeah, thank you all for listening again. And we'll be back, like I said, next Saturday when we do this show. We'll be covering more of my experiences, finishing off my apartment, and then we'll see how much time we have left after that and where we go from there. But thank you all for listening in, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.